Showtime. Showtime. Showtime.
Showtime. Showtime.
Showtime.
Showtime.
Showtime.
Showtime. Showtime. Showtime.
Showtime.
Showtime.
Showtime. Showtime.
Showtime.
Showtime.
Showtime.
Showtime.
Showtime! Ed Berliner, the fastest show in sports.
Greetings, true believers. Welcome into the fastest show in sports. I am your host. I am the ringmaster, Ed Berliner. Thanks so much for joining us. We got a long way to go and a short time to get there. I do want to point out, though, before we begin, that there has been some discrepancies on Dancing with the Stars this season. I understand that certain people have not been able to show up, and the producers are now looking for someone to fill in certain spots. I only bring this up because The Athletic is, without question, the best print version of a sports newspaper, if you will. It's part of the New York Times. And I read The Athletic every single morning, and The Athletic always has excellent stories, excellent commentary, and is always right on top of what is the single most important stuff in America today when it comes to sports. And this morning, I was happy to see that they once again nailed it, because right up front on the front page, sort of below the fold, if you will, on the internet, because it's not quite a newspaper, there it is, the big question. It's among their major stories of the day. Did Jordan Hudson skip Dancing with the Stars? There seems to be a controversy here that the girlfriend of Bill Belichick, who is a former Miss Maine contestant, was going to be on the show. As a matter of fact, some people say that she was listed as a contestant, but then she didn't show for whatever reason. I can only imagine. I want to be in on that conversation. I want to be there when she goes up to Bill and says, "Bill, I've been invited to be on Dancing with the Stars. Would you like to go?" Of course he can't, because it's the college football season and he's busy. But just the fact to have her there. We need more Jordan Hudson in our lives. There's no question about it. What happened? I mean, for a short period of time, it seemed as if every single day America was captivated by what was happening with Bill and Jordan. Now, nothing. Just because of something called college football and a season at North Carolina. Jordan, come back to us. Get involved again. And as a matter of fact, I'll do this. Jordan, you have carte blanche to come on this show at any time. Makes no difference. I don't care when. You can come on. I will, as a matter of fact, I will do the interview with you, and I will start the interview by going, "Jordan, tell us whatever you want." I won't ask a single question then. I'll let you completely go ahead and take control. Jordan, America needs you, especially now if you consider what we're into these days. We need all the Jordan Hudson we can get. We need all of the great memories, all of the great stories between you and Bill and the torrid love affair that you're having. Oh, excuse me one sec. I don't know what happened there, but all of a sudden, torrid love affair, thinking about Jordan and Bill, and it choked me up. But that's the point, Jordan. We need you right now. So, Jordan, please come back to us and be part of America, be part of what we need. We need more Jordan Hudson right now. Moving on. The NFL, Thursday Night Football, the Buffalo Bills hosting the Miami Dolphins, and I had been saying all week that if the Miami Dolphins lost this game, and I didn't, again, when I talk about winning and losing, I don't talk about point spreads, because I guarantee you, there's a lot of people who made money on that game, because I think at the last minute, the spread was the Dolphins were 12.5-point dogs. And if you got that 12.5 points, you did pretty well on a game where you were sweating throughout most of the game. But the most important thing to focus on here is the Dolphins. This is the biggest dumpster fire in the National Football League, and they proved it again last night. Look, don't tell me that the Dolphins actually played a good game. Don't tell me that they almost beat the Buffalo Bills. They lost in the end. It's the L. You have to just put it there. They're not that good. They're 0-3. They're not going to make the playoffs this season. Again, for Dolphin fans. And if you listen to the very first statement made by Dolphins head coach Mike McDaniel right after the game, it's easy to see why this team is such a complete disaster.
It feels like we lost a game. And it's not really, our expectation was to come in here and win the game, and we knew we had to not turn the ball over, and we knew we had to, try to get at least plus or at least even with them in the takeaway department, and we had to play good football and make some plays, and we had a turnover in a critical situation. We had a critical penalty against on a punt, and those types of things can, that's how these types of games are decided. So it feels like a loss, and feels like we have a lot of motivation to get back to work for our next opponent.
Oh, I'm sorry. Are we on? Oh, okay. Whew. Why is it every time I hear Mike McDaniel talk, I think I'm hearing a guy who just skipped his 7th grade social studies class? I mean, this guy is the least effective head coach in the National Football League. Why anybody would want to get up and play for this guy is astounding. And here he is after the game. There it is, the best line. Feels like we lost the game. You did, Mike. You lost the game because you had bad penalties at a bad time. You lost the game because your starting quarterback has a poor and young offensive line in front of him and threw another interception late in the game. You made the mistakes late in the game. Sure, you did very well early on in the game. Look, the Dolphins had the Bills right where they want them, right where they wanted them. They had them. They had perhaps one of the, if not the biggest upsets of the season right there in front of them. And they blew it. And the defense also blew it because you allowed that final score, the final drives. You did good in the first half. You didn't do good in the second half. It's time. Mike, you're fired. I mean, it really has to be dead man walking when McDaniel walks in to meet ownership on the Friday morning after the game. Mike McDaniel, you're fired. You're out. That's it. And right after you and Mike, look, this is nothing personal. You got to realize something here, all right? People like me, we've been covering the National Football League for decades, for a long time. We have seen coaches come and go in every single sport. Rarely have I ever gone into a situation where I'm going to make it personal. Now, there are a couple of coaches out there I've dealt with who, quite frankly, I'm glad they got fired. I wanted them to get fired. I'm glad their lives were over. I'm glad their earning potential went down the tubes because they're just nasty, rotten people. And they deserve it. And no, I'm not going to get it. Maybe one of these days I'll get into it, but not right now. But there are guys and gals out there who deserve to be fired because they're jackasses. They're just completely nasty people. McDaniel's not one of them. I mean, I don't know the guy personally. I really don't. But I know he seems to be an okay guy. He never stole a freight train. But in the same breath, he's an awful National Football League coach. He's in way over his head. After you fire Mike McDaniel, see, this is where it gets a little bit tricky here because, again, you got to come up with somebody who can then take the team for the rest of the season. And, of course, somebody will rise from the assistant coaches ranks. But then you've got to think about the general manager because Chris Grier is the guy who put this team together. A lot of time coaches have input at least on what goes on, and you got to figure that McDaniel had input, but not that much. Grier built this team. But you can't fire him now. If you fire coach and general manager, you may as well just shut the doors and surrender every game this season. You're going to have out-and-out mutiny, and the players are going to be running the show. And that, again, is indeed the inmates running the asylum. You can't do it. So you got to fire McDaniel now. Now. Save whatever you have of the season. Get ready for next year. That's what it all comes down to. You're 3 games into the season right now. You're dead in the water. You're not going to go to the playoffs. You're not going to win the Super Bowl. This season is a complete wash. So you get rid of the flotsam and jetsam, you toss it off the side, and you start to rebuild now. And as a matter of fact, if you do this, you may even want to start looking around at trades. What do the Dolphins have? Tua may have some trade value. Tyreek Hill may have some trade value. Waddle may have some trade value. There's a couple of other players that probably will. Maybe you trade them, load up some picks, do something, surrender the season. The season tickets are basically in the bag right now. You're still going to get your revenue sharing from the National Football League. It's not like if you tank the season that they're going to hold money back from you. And the fans couldn't be more pissed off. It's literally impossible. Look, if you take it right now, and the Dolphins aren't going to win every single game, maybe they go 9-8. That's not good enough for the playoffs. You can't make it like that. So you got to get rid of McDaniel. And then you have to tell Grier pretty much that he's on a leash. But see, Grier is going to know that he's on the leash right now. He has to. You have to figure that Grier is looking for his next job. It makes sense. Now, where his next job will be, because the last time I checked, Walmart is the only one hiring in South Florida. It may take him a little time. But he's the one who put this mess together. Eventually, when you get to the 2026 season, the Miami Dolphins have to be a completely revamped, redone, re-engineered franchise. And the problem with it is people will always say in here, well, let's get rid of Tua while we're at it. Tua is not a bad quarterback. He makes some bad decisions. He's not a GOAT. He's not a Tom Brady. But he's also not a dead-in-the-water rook who, quite frankly, is going to cost you games. Why does he cost you games with interceptions? Because he's got an offensive line in front of him who's made of children, relative infants in the National Football League who barely have any observational skills whatsoever about what's coming at them. Yeah, they played college ball, and yeah, they're pros, but they're not that good. So Tua has got to make it better, and he hasn't been able to because he's got a lousy offensive line. He's got great receivers. He's got a good running back. He's got the starts there, but you still don't have the offensive line. Maybe Tua's the guy you get rid of. Who knows? Maybe Tua's the guy you keep. But my point always comes down to this. If you're going to fire Mike McDaniel, who runs the show? If you're going to get rid of Tua, who's your quarterback? If you're going to get rid of Chris Grier, who's your general manager? You have to make these decisions. These are the tiny things that nobody ever thinks of. When fans scream, it's time to get rid of him, fire him! What do you do next? Nobody really knows at this point. It's a shame because that was once, the Miami Dolphins were once one of those franchises that were just considered to be a legacy franchise. Yeah, they weren't an original NFL franchise, but because of what Don Shula wrought, the undefeated seasons, the 2 Super Bowl years back-to-back, Dan Marino, some of the great things that they had happened to them in the 80s, you would think that they would be considered a team, at least a franchise that people would respect. Nobody respects these Miami Dolphins right now. I guarantee it. When the Buffalo Bills were preparing for that Thursday night game, they got ready for a certain type of team. They can respect them to a certain point, knowing full well that it's still a professional football game and anything can happen. But I got news for you. A lot of players are now lining up against the Dolphins going, come on, we can take these guys. They're not that good. It's an embarrassing franchise. It's an embarrassing season to watch. And it simply is just the kind of a campaign that you want to forget. So, put it to bed. It's over. Dolphin fans, I'm sorry for you. Again, you're the ones that got to put up with this, and you're the ones who are paying the freight, which is always my big stink when it comes down to the NFL. You've got terrible owners and terrible franchises, and fans, you don't get a discount. You still got to pay the full boat. You're paying for this boat right now, and it's unfair to the fans. It's also unfair to some players who give it their all. That's another story. Moving on. The National Football League has another concern to worry about here because Tom Brady is a legacy football player, one of the best players to ever get on the field in the National Football League. He is now a broadcaster for Fox, which means he has a public persona there. but he is also a minority owner of the Las Vegas Raiders. So to have Tom Brady sitting in the booth with Raiders coaches as a broadcaster and as an owner, see, there's the conflict of interest. And Antonio Pierce was the coach of the Raiders for one season, and he sucked. He was awful. That team went 3-14, and there's no doubt he was going to get fired. So it is just possible that when Pierce pisses and moans about the Raiders, he's got an axe to grind. But in a sense, he's right, because there is a conflict of interest here. And if you think Tom Brady is not sharing along the line, look, he gets to interview the coaches. He gets to get close to the players. He has all his inside information that's available to him. Guess what? You really don't think he's not sharing it with the Raiders, the team that he has a financial stake in? Come on, people. Wake up. Pierce, for one, Pierce might be blowing smoke here when he appeared on Mad Dog Radio on Sirius XM, but in essence, he's right.
Tom Brady is the elite of elite, one of the greatest quarterbacks, one of the greatest players in the game. Played against him, obviously. Student of the game. It's not hard for him to watch a few things on a Friday practice or hear things in a production meeting and be like, and have tidbits. And you'd be foolish enough to think that he's not going to share that with the Raiders. Because we had those conversations about certain things, right? And he was very informative about things that he knew or he felt. And that's why you bring in a guy like Tom Brady into your organization to be a minority owner, because he gives you those aspects and different insights that some people can't give you. So how I would take it, I would be nervous. I think I'd be tight-lipped, which I think most head coaches are when they go in production meetings. They watch it. I think on Fridays, if he happens to be there on a Friday practice, you might want to limit some things. I just think that's a fact. I think everybody's going to give you the political answer and say, oh, it's no big deal. I'm calling BS on that. Because if me and you was to call a game, they'll be secretive with us. Now you got a guy who's a minority owner, a great player. You know he understands the game. You know he sees the game. He has obviously an interest in the Raiders. So I just think it's unprecedented. We haven't seen it. Again, I don't want to talk above my means. I don't know what the NFL has set for Tom Brady and his rules, but I know he was a great asset for us as the Raiders when I was there. And I think he'll still be a great asset as he's going forward. And I think this does help him out and the Raiders.
Now, what Pierce talks about in there is something that most people don't think about right away. When you're part of a network broadcast team, actually when you're a part of any broadcast team, because I was never on a network. I mean, I was on networks, but I wasn't on ABC or CBS. And I was the part of play-by-play teams. I was the play-by-play guy for college baseball, college football, NFL football, hockey. Gosh, I can't even think of what else I did. I mean, I basically did just about every sport. And when you're part of that broadcast team, you do meet with the coaches either the week prior, the days before, or the day before the game, or sometime. But you talk to the coaches and you get some of the insight. The coaches there will give you some information that they normally wouldn't give anybody else, because it's given to you so you can properly call the game. That's what the production meeting is about, where you can ask about certain players, injuries of certain players, different strategies, what you do, and it's a great chance just to tell stories and get to know the coaches. But these production meetings are held all the time. Tom Brady is in those production meetings, and he is meeting with the head coaches of the teams that he is going to call that week. If I'm an NFL head coach, and again, there's not much of the paranoia that we think about right away, but it is something to be said. If I'm sitting across the table from Tom Brady, Brady's doing the game this week, and I also know that he's a minority owner of the Las Vegas Raiders, and he has the opportunity and the wherewithal to be part of that franchise from an ownership standpoint, do you really think I'm going to give him anything? There are things I'm going to keep from him. I don't want to slip up and give him something that he is going to turn over to the Raiders if I'm playing the Raiders that season, sometime that season, that could give them an edge. Now, and again, Pierce is right about one thing. You can say the politically correct thing and say that Tom Brady's a professional. He would never tell anybody anything. Good for you. We don't know that. There is a possibility, whether it's purposeful, whether he slips, whether something is said, but he is being given inside information that then can be shared down the line. And the National Football League is derelict in their duty with this, because he is an owner. Regardless that he's minority, he is still an owner. He has a financial stake in the Las Vegas Raiders. At that point, he should not be allowed to be a commentator, an analyst of any kind. They should immediately cancel the Fox contract, take him off the air. It's a conflict of interest. Now, they won't. Of course, I'm blowing smoke because all I'm doing is pointing out what should happen, and it's not going to happen because the National Football League certainly doesn't want to piss off Fox because Fox makes them billions and jillions and trillions of dollars every single year on the broadcast contracts. So they're not going to get them upset. And they're also not going to get involved because Tom Brady is Tom Brady. He's the guy that brings credibility to it. Look, the fact that he may be a minority owner and he may be sharing some things here and there says one thing, but he is still Tom Brady and he's still a draw. And the NFL wants that on their games because they want you to watch and they want to make money and they want the sponsors to be happy. But in essence of fact, Brady does not belong in the broadcast booth if he's going to be a minority owner. Now, if you take his minority owner stake and you suspend it, it doesn't make a difference. He's still going to get paid. He's still going to profit from it. He has to divest himself of his Raiders minority ownership. And this is nothing against the Raiders. This is just common sense. He's a broadcaster. He's calling the games. He's supposed to be impartial. There is no way in hell that Brady can be impartial. He can say it all he wants, but he's not. You can then come back to me and say, well, just don't put him on a Raiders game. Doesn't make a difference. He's still an insider. He still has certain things that he's being given. And this is nothing against Brady either. Look, I know Tom not well. I was there when the Patriots were winning Super Bowls. I interviewed him a few times. He's a nice guy, but I have no great friendship or relationship with him. But he is just as big-headed as any other NFL player that I've ever interviewed in my life. He's just as egomaniacal as anybody else. He just happens to be really good at his job. But to do things right here, the NFL needs to have him divest of the Raiders, or else just don't be on television. It's that simple. However, we've just gone all through this wonderful discussion, and it's never going to happen. Because the National Football League will bend the rules however it takes for them to make money, for their networks to make money, for their teams to make money. And why should we be surprised about that? We shouldn't at all. That's life, kids. That's big corporate life. Moving on. We find ourselves in a very difficult situation from a broadcast standpoint and a journalist standpoint. I'm going to get to that in just a second, but I want to just set that tone because I don't want anybody to think that for the next portion of the show, we are going to wax political. But we do have to get into the politics here a little bit and see how it affects us and where the conversation goes when it comes down to reporting sports, which is what we're here for. Most of you, I'm sure, if not all of you, know what has happened in the last several days in the taping of this show. That Jimmy Kimmel has been suspended temporarily at ABC from his late-night talk show. That it involves a segment of government. It involves the FCC. It involves decisions by ABC and Disney. Remember, we're not going to get political here. Okay, this is not going to denigrate down into a Democrat versus Republican battle, but set the stage. If you have not seen or heard what exactly got him suspended, this is what happened.
We hit some new lows over the weekend with the MAGA gang desperately trying to characterize this kid who murdered Charlie Kirk as anything other than one of them and doing everything they can to score political points from it. In between the finger pointing, there was grieving. On Friday, the White House flew the flags at half-staff, which got some criticism. But on a human level, you can see how hard the president is taking this.
My condolences on the loss of your friend Charlie Kirk. May I ask, sir, personally, how are you holding up over the last day and a half, sir?
I think very good. And by the way, right there, you see all the trucks? They've just started construction of the new ballroom for the White House, which is something they've been trying to get, as you know, for about 150 years. And it's going to be a beauty.
Yes. Okay. He's at the fourth stage of grief, construction. There's demolition, construction. This is not how an adult grieves the murder of someone he called a friend. This is how a 4-year-old mourns a goldfish, okay? And it didn't just happen once.
When I heard it, I was in the midst of building a great, for 150 years, they've wanted a ballroom at the White House, right? They don't have a ballroom. They have to use tents on the lawn for President Xi when he comes over. If it rains, it's a wipeout. And so I was with the architects that would design. It's going to be incredible. And they came in, they said, Charlie Kirk is dead. I didn't know what they meant. I said, he was dead. Charlie Kirk was shot. And they thought he was dead because it was so horrific, And I said, dead.
And then we installed the most beautiful chandelier. Sconces you wouldn't believe. There's something wrong with them. There really is. I mean, who thinks like that? And why are we building a $200 million ballroom in the White House? Is it possible that he's doing it intentionally so we could be bad about that instead of the Epstein list? By the time he's out of office, the White House will have slot machines and a water slide.
Let's take this from the first position, okay? Comedy is necessary in America and necessary in our lives. Did Jimmy Kimmel go over the edge? Maybe. In a couple of areas he did. He certainly called the President of the United States a 4-year-old, and that's not going to make anybody happy. But then comedians do that all the time. Every single time. It doesn't make a difference if you go to a local show, or if you're on a national show, or if you watch Netflix, or if you go to a concert. Comedians are going to offend somebody. It's not a big deal. You let it go. You let it wash over your head. You just walk away from it. Because the more stink you make about it, the worse it gets. But Kimmel did what Kimmel does. Now, again, this is not about my telling you got to like Kimmel or you got to agree with it or you got to dislike the people who are involved in going after him. That's not the point here. The point is now those of us who cover sports for a living, and I know this may sound a little trivial, but even we have now been put on our heels. And I need to think about it as well. Because if jokes like this bring about a government crackdown, if humor like this, whether you like the humor or not, brings with it the possibility of losing a job, losing sponsors, losing a career, you got to sit and think about it now. Because that's what's happened. It's not just Kimmel who's out in this. It's his entire staff. All those people involved are no longer working. Their lives have been affected. For what? For a couple of jokes that are no big deal? But that's not the point. The point is the action has been taken. And from my perspective, those of us who are on the air, and it's not just here on podcasts or YouTube or any other special show, but those who do shows for the major networks, those who get tens of thousands and millions of viewers and listeners every single day, the ones who are on the national shows, the pregame shows for the NFL, the ones who do baseball programming right now, the ones who call hockey games, the people who call basketball games, NBA, WNBA, makes no difference, or those who are just talk show hosts. Because let's face it, our job is to get you to scratch an itch. Our job is to get you riled about something, discussing something, talking about something. But that's our job. It's what we do. But can we do it now? Can we do it with any certainty that we're not going to be next? As I came out on this show today, I said some things about Mike McDaniel, the head coach of the Miami Dolphins. I said he should be fired. I basically alluded to the fact that he looks like a social studies student coming out of elementary school. I made a couple of assertions. I made a couple of jokes. I made a couple of snaps. I made a couple of opinions in saying that he needs to. I said Chris Grier for the Dolphins needs to be fired. I made some choices that, if things are different, could come back to haunt me. Everybody can. Most of you will say, wait a minute, just opinion. But that's part of the point. What Jimmy Kimmel did was opinion. It was comedy, but it was opinion. And he's been punished for it. We who are in this business today, we're the guys and the gals who come out and say, hey, that team sucks, and this player needs to be fired, and this woman has never really ever been a good competitor in her life, and this one cheated, and this one took steroids, and this one is guilty of beating up his girlfriend. We come out and say the most outrageous things because that's what talk radio is about. That's what it's all about. It's about educating, sure, but it's also about saying outrageous things that people start to talk about. That's what we're here for. That's why you're here. Because you want to hear this stuff and you want to get into that discussion and you want to get into the argument and you want to have the debate and you want to yell and scream and holler at the screen, whomever is on that other side. That's what we do. That's what you do. But are we at a stage where we can't do it anymore? Are we at a stage where now, those of us who do it, even you, let's say you're on a call-in show. You're on a call-in sports talk show. You call back in, somebody says something about the head coach of your football team, and you go off on a rant. Oh, this guy sucks. This guy's the worst. You see how he treats his family. You see how he treats his dog. You see what he does. He's destroying the franchise. He's costing us money. He's doing things that are not going to make us a winner, and I'm sick and tired of it, and he's just a son of a bitch. You throw it out there. Well, you just sort of went over the edge, didn't you? You didn't tell jokes, but you went over the edge in your opinion about somebody. So is it possible that you're going to be next? It's possible. Unfortunately, where we're at right now, it's possible. And it's being made more possible every single day. And this doesn't have anything to do with left, right, Republican, Democrat, conservative, liberal. I don't care if you worship at the altar of a wet mop. It doesn't make a difference. Because both sides and everybody is now involved in this discourse. And the words are flying fast and furious. Somebody's wrong. Somebody's going too far. And a lot of times in sports talk radio, we go really far. We go over the edge. We've been doing it for 100 years. We may as well keep doing it. Of course, everything we say is couched in being opinion. And opinion should be allowed to flow. But maybe it won't be. Maybe opinion is the next thing that's going to be struck. And if that happens, we're screwed. And so are you. You lose your entertainment. You lose the shows you like. You may not even, somebody may find out that you're the person who got on the line and you said certain things about a coach. You said disparaging things about a coach or a player, and somebody then is going to sue you because you injured their life. That's where we're at. We may have to just chuck this whole thing one way or another sooner or later. Shouldn't have to. We should be allowed to make comments and opinions. That's what talk shows are for. And especially on sports talk shows where we really go over the edge sometimes. But it could be coming to an end. Be concerned about it. I'm not saying it's happening right now, but it could, and that becomes a real issue. Moving on. When it comes down to the internet and social media, we are flooded every single day with garbage, bullshit, nonsense, complete crap. Things that float around the internet and everybody believes because why? It's on the internet. And in sports, we see it all the time. And people are falling for it. And part of what's happening right now is there's an opportunity for people to say, no, I don't want to be a sucker. Because in the end, you really are. Look, this all got started when a friend of mine sent me this. This is from Facebook, and it is from somebody called Tunisha Sharma. First of all, the name right there should be a tip-off. Something's gone wrong here. Something's not right. And again, people are believing this. The person who sent this to me thought this was real. Because here's the post that says, Mookie Betts, star of the Los Angeles Dodgers, has doubled down on his remarks about the late Charlie Kirk. He had previously written on his Instagram story, if you want people to speak kindly about you after you're gone, then you should speak kindly while you're alive, quote unquote. After receiving backlash, Betts responded with a follow-up, quote, And I stand by this. Be kind now more than ever, unquote. Had a picture of Mookie there. Sounds good. Guess what? It's bullshit. It's nonsense. It's complete idiocy. It's not real. It's fake. As the big red letters right there say, it's fake. But there's people falling for it. They're going for it simply because it's on the internet and somebody named Tanisha Sharma put it up there. Not that it came from NBC Sports or CBS Sports or the Dodgers themselves or Mookie's own account. Didn't come from any of this. But guess what? It doesn't make a difference. You fell for it. People, stop being a sucker. Stop being stupid. Stop falling for this bullshit. I actually had somebody tell me you shouldn't say bullshit so often. Well, but when it's bullshit, you got to say bullshit because it fits perfectly. George Carlin would be very happy with me right now. But it's not even this from Mookie Betts. Before we came on and started the show today, I was just flipping through social media 15 minutes before we started the show. And this came up. The one in the middle, if you're watching this on YouTube, or if you're not, I'll read it for you, for those of you on the podcast. This is from a Facebook account called New England Patriots Legends. Hey, sounds legit. It's a picture of Julian Edelman and Charlie Kirk. And it says, when the flag was lowered for Charlie Kirk, few expected Julian Edelman to step into the fire. But his defiant stand for slain children shocked the nation. Why did the Patriots legend speak out? And what consequences now loom? And there's a link there. Looks good. topnewssource.com/news. Top news source. Come on, you're not falling for that, are you? And underneath it, why was the flag lowered to honor Charlie Kirk, says the text. Julian Edelman's defiant stand for slain children sparks national uproar. Okay, I saw that. No one had sent it to me. I saw it. Next thing I did was, it took me 30 seconds. 30 seconds, or even less, of doing a couple of simple searches using Google, the internet, and there was no evidence of this being said, written, texted, anywhere else. Nothing. So then I went to Julian Edelman's account, and I found what Julian Edelman had said about Charlie Kirk. Quote, doesn't matter where you land in the political landscape. Violence like this is never acceptable. Praying for the family. That was on September the 10th. You can see it right there. Julian Edelman never said anything about children, about flag being lowered, but people are falling for it because it's out there and it seems legit. I'm going to do whatever I can here because if I got to start doing this every week, look, I had talked about this. If we got to start doing a segment every week that talks about the absolute bullshit crap that winds up on the internet, that is part of sports, that people are falling for, I'm willing to do it. Because nobody seems to be checking it out. That hit from New England Patriots Legends got thousands of views. And as a matter of fact, in the comments section, it had people believing it. It's fake. It never happened. And if we're going to go one step further, we need to look at what has also happened in the WNBA this season. Because Angel Reese has got a big mouth at times. She likes to shoot it off. But what you're seeing here right now are two posts on social media about Angel Reese. The first one is from the Daily Sports. Okay. Sounds okay. Daily Sports. Picture of Angel Reese. Quote, the wording, at this point, I'd rather dream of being a contractor's wife in the Philippines than a WNBA player with a low salary. Unquote. Sounds good. Hey, everybody's been talking about the WNBA salary here this year and how the players aren't getting paid enough money. You would think that Angel Reese might be one of those players who will get out there, stick her foot in it, and just be part of it. Next to that is another one from something called NBA's Highlights. And the possessive on the NBA, which is something else, another discussion. There's a picture of Angel Reese and Sydney Sweeney. The Post writes, it's either her or me. Angel Reese takes a firm stand, issuing a clear ultimatum to American Eagle. Remove Sydney Sweeney's offensive photos. If you haven't heard that happen a couple of weeks ago, supposedly offensive photos. Or she'll cut ties with the brand for good. Won't accept any offer in the future. And it has a quote, claims to be a quote from Angel Reese. It's either me or her. If she stays, I'll bounce. I've got 3 billion fans worldwide, so think carefully. Bullshit. Both of them, complete bullshit. Totally fake, never been said. Angel Reese never said one single word of this. But under every single one, there were people who fell for it, and people who were going, you go, girl. You get in there and fight the WNBA. It's not real. It's fake. And as a matter of fact, you can search. You could do this. Takes maybe 30 seconds or a minute. You can use Google, or you can use, what's the other one? For the moment, it escapes me. But any other search engine you want. And you can find out. Just put in Angel Reese, contractor's wife, Philippines, WNBA salary. Search it. It's not there, except on posts like this. People, please. 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 We beg you. Those of us who work in this industry, those of us who are fans, stop being a sucker. Stop being used. Stop being made a jackass of. If you post this stuff, you're just as bad as they are. You're just helping propagate the propaganda and the nonsense. Be better. Don't be part of the idiocy. You have the power. Moving on, just a minute. Okay. Moving on. It is time for the people at the University of Colorado to realize you've been had. I mean, I said this when Deion Sanders was hired by Colorado, and I have some history with the Buffs, which we'll get into in just a minute. I said, you guys are being conned. I know what you're doing. I get it. You're thinking all about Deion and what he's going to bring to the program, and you'll win a national championship, you'll win a conference title, you'll be big again, and everybody will love to see you Buffs. Well, they still might, but you're being conned. And it's so blatant to watch. Deion is playing you like suckers. The Colorado Buffaloes lose their game to Houston, 36-20. Makes them 1-2 on the season. The only win that Colorado has this year out of their 3 games is against a Delaware team that was nothing more than a shakedown cruise. They weren't even close to the kind of athletes that Colorado has. And that's it. The only reason is because you played a weak sister. So Deion loses to Houston. He meets the media. Here we go. And everybody, of course, coaches always meet the media. And usually it happens on a Tuesday or a Wednesday in college football to talk about the game coming up. The first things out of his mouth are about the head coach at the University of Wyoming. He doesn't even get the guy's name right. He's reading off a document in front of him, and listen to how he's reading it, because you can tell, obviously, he's never looked at it, he's never thought about it, he doesn't know the coach, he doesn't know who he's playing, he just sits down, and out comes the bullshit.
God bless each and every one of you. Wyoming's head coach, Coach Swavel, tremendous career. When I read up and study some of these guys, I'm marveled at the stops they've had, the elevation that they've climbed to, and the opportunities they've been afforded, and they've taken advantage of it. And he's just another good one, good guy. I always have someone who reach out to me and tell me about the character of the not only the team but the coaches that I'm getting ready to coach against. And this gentleman is unbelievable. He has done a fantastic job with the opportunity afforded, coming from the defensive backs and the safeties since 2020. So he has understanding of this university, and he's done a heck of a job, man. So proud of him, proud to be up against him. I can't wait to see how we match up.
Deion Sanders doesn't know spit from Shinola about the guy that he's about to face. And he's talking about how people tell me about him. People tell me about the character. And he's done a great job. His name is Jay Sawvel. It is not Swavel or whatever he said, or Swavel. It's not. Deion doesn't even know this guy, doesn't care, doesn't need to. He just gets shoveled something from the sports information department that gives him this and tells him to read it. Hasn't even looked at it until he sat down. He doesn't know who the guy is, doesn't know who Wyoming is, and he doesn't care. He doesn't care. Because Deion is set. He can get away with anything there because the University of Colorado, the people around him, they have entitled him to basically become the clown show that he is. Oh, we won games the last couple of seasons, but where are you? You're now 1-2. A lot of those players are gone. Deion's kids are gone now. You've got players there that are basically second and third tiers, and they're just not that good. You're right back where you started. And not only that, here's the other thing about Deion. At his press conference, after he gets done talking about the coach that he knows absolutely nothing about, doesn't know anything about Wyoming, doesn't care to, doesn't have to, the next thing he does, and remember, at these press conferences, what coaches normally do is they talk about the opponent. They talk about what they're going to face. They talk about if they've faced them before. They talk about their team. They talk about things that are getting ready, and then they take questions. Deion, the master con that he is, pulls out a press release from the University of Colorado and decides to talk about other sports at the school.
Students of the week, Tawfiq Bayard, who's been playing his butt off as well, and Mantrez Walker out of Georgia. Team notes. Shout out to volleyball and soccer. Volleyball is 9-0. Wow. We wish we were them. Just the second time in program history. I just asked for someone to put schedules. We need all the athletic schedules in the dining hall so we could support one another, because we don't know. We sit there and eat with them all the time. And I was just talking to, I forgot which team it was, lacrosse. And like, when do y'all play? What's the schedule? And I want to know so we could come and support them. But shout out to the volleyball team. Soccer is 6-1. I love their coaching staff. I love those guys. They've lost a lot of weight and they're looking real good. They're eating right, looking healthy. I love those guys to life. And they hit that portal hard, didn't they? They hit it hard. I'm proud of them. They have a Big 12 opener at home against Kansas State on Thursday night. That looked like prenup feel to me. You know, when you've been through what I've been through, that looks like prenup to me. Okay, but I guess it's not. You can tell I'm in a silly mood today. This week is family weekend. We're gonna have a packed house. I love family weekend, so the families of all the students can come here and see their babies, see their kids. It's gonna be phenomenal as well. Let's go after this sip of water.
Okay, let's go after this sip of water. Wow. I'm silly today. The man has Deion Sanders has absolutely no clue what goes on at Colorado. He doesn't care. He sits there and he talks about other teams. The soccer team, ooh, they're looking good. They're losing weight. Ooh, they hit the portal hard. I know what that's like, going after other players. And he's reading it. It's a press release from the Sports Information Department. That's all it is. Never in my career covering college athletics, and that spans more than 30 years, have I ever seen a head coach of any team whatsoever at any level of any college sit there and start out a press conference without any knowledge whatsoever of the opposing coach, no knowledge of the opposing team, and then sit there and read a press release that talks about the other school, the other teams at their school, the soccer team, the volleyball team, the rugby team. Nobody's ever done that. Why? Because we don't give a shit. We're not here to hear that. As the media and as the fans, we don't want that. As the fans who are big fans of Buffs football, you want to hear about the team. You want to hear what's going on. You want to hear how we're going to get out of this 1-2 hole. You want to hear how we're going to get better. I don't care what the rugby team's doing. I don't care what the soccer team is doing. But Deion does it because he's trying to ingratiate himself with everybody and make people think that he actually knows and likes the school. He doesn't care. You people at Colorado, you people. That's a terrible thing to say. No, it's not. My friends at Colorado, I still have friends there. I worked in Colorado for 4 years. It was one of the 2 best times in my broadcast career. I loved it. I went to Buffs games. The feel, the aura around it, and that's when nobody was going. This goes back 20 years. I mean, sure, you had people going to the games every now and then, but it wasn't like it was popular or anything. People went, but they didn't sell out. Deion comes in, boom, selling out. People are there. Deion Sanders, we're cooking. Everybody's making money. You're being suckered. Deion Sanders is suckering you basically just to go ahead, hand him a job, pay him the money, let him roll up a resume, and let him one day become a head coach in the National Football League, which at this point I haven't heard anybody who's willing to give him a shot because he hasn't proven anything about being able to coach a team other than just bringing in a bunch of players from the transfer portal to go ahead and try and make a team better. But the people in Colorado, you're being suckered by this guy. The nonsense you're letting him get away with. They start a season, and what did they have? 197 quarterbacks on the team, and they couldn't figure out who the quarterback was? That's incredible. That's nonsense. That's derelict in duty is what it is. I mean, basically, he hands off, there's 2 losses out of the 3 games that they played, and you don't have a quarterback. Oh, now they're going to have a quarterback. Now they're going to pick somebody, and it's going to be a full-time guy. But you're letting this guy run this program, and you're not helping yourself. You're not making CU football any better. You're not making it seem to be better. You're not making it more attractive. Yeah, you're going to make it more attractive for the short haul, but for the long haul, nobody's looking at Colorado with any respect. I have talked to 3 different people in college athletics, 2 of them on the West Coast, who know this program very well, and said we still don't have any respect for Colorado, even less now than we had before. At least they were trying by hiring college football people, bringing in the kids, doing it right. Deion has just made a mess of it. He gave him 2 years, and now you're paying for 2 years. You had 2 years of success, and now you're basically going to suck for a short time, and Deion doesn't care. His assistant coaches don't care. His kids are gone. That's what he came to you for. He came to you to give his kids a platform so they could become draft picks. One, of course, going to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, who didn't last 10 seconds because he shot his mouth off more than once and couldn't basically play the game to be an NFL pro. And the other one, who pissed everybody off, dropped in the draft, and may never actually reach any sort of great standing as a quarterback because he's another one who can't keep his mouth shut, like his father. I love Colorado. I love the University of Colorado. Great people. Always great people. But you've been suckered. You've been had. You've been tooled. Stop. Look, you're married to Deion for a period of time. What are you going to do? Fire him? You can fire him. If he has a bad year this year, sure, you can fire him. You can try. But you won't because it's still Deion Sanders, and you're going to give him at least another year, and maybe another one after that. And who knows? Might actually win some games because, let's face it, they're not in the most competitive conference in the country. You might get lucky. Maybe you'll contend for a conference championship. Maybe. I don't see that happening with any great regularity because it still comes down to the fact that Deion doesn't give a shit about Colorado. He doesn't care about Buffs fans. He doesn't care about making the program better. He cares about himself. Always has, always will. And it shows when he gets out in that press conference, doesn't know the name of the coach that he's coaching against, doesn't know anything about the team he's coaching against, although he's supposed to be getting ready for that team right now. And basically just reads press releases from your sports information department to fill up time and tell jokes. If that's what you want and if that's what you think is necessary to build the Colorado program, hey, you folks got more trouble than I can think of because you're being suckered and you're allowing it. You're being conned, and you've been conned. Maybe you ought to take a step back a little bit and not be as conned as you have been by Deion Sanders. Moving on, last thing. Jake Paul... I'm sorry. I actually started, but every time I say the words Jake Paul, I start to laugh because the guy's a joke. Jake Paul's next fight was set for Atlanta. It is now going to be in Miami. It is against a fighter, a good fighter, by the name of Tank Davis. Tank Davis is pretty good. He's a world champion. But here's the thing. Tank Davis weighs about 134 pounds. Jake Paul weighs about 200 pounds. And I can't think of anybody better. If you've been in boxing, if you know boxing, this guy's a friend of mine. Haven't seen him in a couple of years. Wonderful guy. But recently on his own podcast, Teddy Atlas, the veteran trainer and the guy who knows boxing better than anybody, he's been in the game a long time, and you can tell, Teddy Atlas had his take on the Jake Paul-Tank Davis fight. It is magnificent.
What if Tank Davis, who can punch, who is a hell of a fighter, who is a top 10 pound-for-pound fighter, what if he lands a punch on this bigger guy's chin, right, who's not a professional fighter? What happens? What happens? That's what would sell it. I know the size difference is what creates the problem. The optics, the look, the reality. I mean, you got one guy who's fights at 135 pounds, and you got another guy who fights at 200. I mean, just that alone, yeah. But you also, and I'm not saying I want this or I like this when I heard it. No, I didn't like it, to be honest, for the optics and everything else I just said. But you do have one guy who, yeah, he's smaller, but he's a top fighter. He can punch. And he's fighting a guy who's not a top pro fighter, who's bigger. What if he hits him on the chin? What if he hits him on the chin? It'll wind up selling. And that's what'll wind up selling it. The what if. What if Tank makes him do a cha-cha? He hits him on the chin, and Jake Paul, we're going to find out if he can dance. Whoa, 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 whoa. You know, do the cha-cha. That's what's going to sell it. And you can't argue that what if. You can't. I know I get to places that other people won't go and everything else. They just dismiss stuff because it's easier to do that. It's safer to do that. You don't have the bows and arrows coming at you from people that argue with you because you did that. But I don't care. I've had bows and arrows my whole life. I don't care.
Where else can you get cha-chas and bows and arrows in the same commentary? Teddy, I love you, baby. Thanks so much. That was just perfect. But Teddy Atlas nails it. This is just another cartoon show. Jake Paul and Tank Davis. Think about that. 135 versus 200. And I'll tell you a little secret here. Tank Davis is going to kick his ass. Tank Davis is going to make Jake Paul look like the complete fake fraud comic book character that he is. Jake Paul's not a boxer. He's not a fighter. All he is a guy who basically bunched himself up, pumped up, got the muscle, has fought nothing but absolute clowns. Mike Tyson? Mike Tyson's 197 years old. Julio Chavez Jr.? Wait, before he goes ahead and gets deported and gets arrested back in Mexico or in the United States, he's facing guys that are absolute tomato cans. You can write that down now. That's something that happens in boxing. If you're in boxing and you're fighting somebody who's absolutely terrible, totally bad, not good, anyway, you call him a tomato can, okay? Just in case. I thought I'd do that because who knows, the audience may not know. But it's a joke. It's what boxing is these days. But to have Teddy Atlas say it perfectly, to watch Jake Paul do the cha-cha and all the bows and arrows that he has taken, nobody gets it better. I know people who are desperate for this fight. I know people who want this fight. I know when this fight got moved, it was in Atlanta. And it got moved out of Atlanta because the boxing commission there and the people there weren't going to allow it because 135 versus 200, they said, we can't have this. This is a farce. So what they do is Jake Paul's own promotion company, where he's invested all his money and he's got plenty of it, they decided to come to Miami and they're going to have it there because Miami will let anything happen. Florida's athletic commission and athletic representatives in the state are idiots and morons. They'll let anything fly. They don't care. If it makes money and puts money in our pocket, hell, we're happy. Bring it in. Put it down in the arena. And I know people who are lining up right now. I said, wait a minute, tickets might be $300. Oh, I'll pay $1,000 to see this fight. You never know what's going to happen. See, Teddy Atlas got it right. They want to be there. It's the spectacle is all it is. Boxing at that level, and we've had a couple of decent boxing matches recently, but at that level, it's not even real boxing. It's just, is the little guy going to have to reach up and beat the snot out of Jake Paul? Is he going to get lucky with a good shot? And Tank Davis has got a good set of hands. He's got a punch behind him. At 135, he's good. Or is Jake Paul, this hulking behemoth, this man-child, is he going to be able to punch downward and beat the little guy up? Oh, yeah! Let's see a 200-pound guy beat up a 135-pound guy. What sport? Yeah, I'm paying $2,000 for this. What's wrong with you people? You're being suckered. You're conned. Just like everything else. You've been conned to believe that this is important. Or it's spectacle. You want spectacle? There's a million other things I could think of to do than have to go to something like this. A million other sporting events. Invest your money, travel, go someplace, see a sporting event in another country. But this? Honest to goodness, we'll talk about this as it gets further. We're going to have to. But I'm going to tell you right now, mark this down. I'm going to record this. Tank Davis is going to beat the shit out of Jake Paul. Tank Davis is going to make him look absolutely juvenile, infantile-ish, silly in that ring. It won't even be close. And hopefully, if we're lucky, this will put Jake Paul down for the final time and we won't have to deal with. Of course, I'm hoping, but that's not going to happen. Because even if Jake Paul loses this fight, he's going to say it's only one loss. Look, I'm going to get better. I'm going to come back. He'll find 3 or 4 more tomato cans and somebody to give him some kind of a ranking, and he'll be back again. Because it's a freak show. You know? It's the fat lady at the carnival. It's the rubber-faced man at the carnival. That's all this is. But if he wins, which isn't going to happen, it will just set the stage for more garbage fights and put boxing into another level of where people don't care. And right now they don't care because of people like Jake Paul. Come on, Tank. Make this one work, baby. This might actually be a Jake Paul fight. I don't believe I'm saying this. This might actually be a Jake Paul fight that I'll pay for, that I'll watch. Well, but wait a minute. I don't have to. It's on Netflix. I have Netflix. I don't have to pay anything extra. Yes! Yes! And don't you dare come to me and ask for more money, Netflix, because you're not going to get it. Basically, it's free at that point. Yeah! That's the way to watch a Jake Paul fight without having to pay 1 single cent. Don't forget, you want to get a hold of us here? You can go to us at The Fastest Show in Sports on YouTube. You can reply there on any of the videos that we have, because we have full shows, segments, and also features that are there as well, short pops that you can get on the short side of things. And also, if you want to listen to us on audio podcasts, wherever you get your podcasts, we're based at Podbean, but you can go to any of the major platforms, and we are there. Thanks for joining us, everybody. Rock on, true believers. Until next time, I'm Ed Berliner. See ya!
That's all, folks.